Yay. All right. So I said, this is the live Rosh Hashanah episode. As we head in, we were just saying that as we're getting ready to do this, a lot of you are doing specific readings in Genesis 21 and Numbers 29, going through some readings just for Rosh Hashanah. But we are actually going to talk about the Torah portion today. Violet, Rebecca, you got to mute you. Now we got to unmute you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you go. What are you doing this weekend? What's your congregation doing for Rosh
My
Hashanah?
congregation is getting together for a dinner. That's what we usually do to celebrate. We're a small group and we just get together and kind of spend some time and fellowship. And then we kind of, we have found that when we break bread together, we have the best conversations and we're able to kind of really kind of like just enjoy the feast and kind of talk about it and get conversations going and how it is integrating into our lives and stuff. So we have a really good time.
I love that. Tell me what, like, over the years, has Rosh Hashanah taken on a new meaning to you at all?
Yeah, definitely. Because in the beginning, and this is purely like our walk, right? So everybody's at a different stage, a different understanding, different things or whatever. But in the beginning, it was, oh, it's the new year, it's the new cycle, it's the new this and everything. But now it has turned into something where it's like, oh, God is calling you. It's a time to kind of take stock and inventory and what's been going on. It's kind of time to refresh, renew. If you've kind of veered off the path a little bit, like it's time to bring it in, that kind of a thing. So the focus has changed from being like more of I don't want to, it's not a secular holiday, obviously it's not, but that idea of like a 4th of July or like, that kind of a thing. It's more of a, hey, God it's a special time. God has separated this time. He's calling you. Well,
yes.
That kind of a thing. So
I know.
And that comes with study, right? That comes with learning.
It comes with study. I like that you said we're all in a different process for this because it totally comes with study. You start out, I'm going to just say, I remember, and I want to say this because there's a lot of you who might be thinking it. And I'm just going to say what might be in your head. There's a lot of you will hear like Yom Teruah,
yes,
Rosh Hashanah,
yeah,
Feast of Trumpets. And you're like, which is it? And the answer is yes. Yeah. So we have a Rosh Hashanah, which is we're bringing on a new year, the head of the year, right? We're bringing on the ahead of a year, which will remind me. Let's say like, wait, I thought Passover was the first of the year. I thought that was the first of the year. So don't let me forget. Let's hit that for a minute because this is stuff that's real, right? This is the stuff that's really that comes up that we're asking all these questions. Like, well, wait a minute. If I'm trying to just walk out these feasts in the Bible. And I know they're God's, these are not Jewish feasts. These are God's feasts. These are biblical feasts these are God's appointed times, his appointed times, not ours, not Jewish appointed times. So how do we walk those out? So what we're trying to talk about right now is sometimes there's a lot of names get thrown around and like everyone knows what that means. And we're like, oh, uh-huh. And then you're quickly Googling, trying to figure out what it is. And I just want you to know it's okay. Cause I did that. I was like, I don't understand what all that means. And so I had to run in and start Googling. Did you go through that, Rebecca?
Yeah, 100%. This is the thing. I think that this particular walk is all about you being responsible. You have to be responsible. You have to be responsible for your learning. You have to be responsible for your understanding. You can't use the excuse of, oh, well, I went to, for example, I come back from a Pentecostal background, a Reformed background at one point. You can go to the idea of saying, oh, well, I went to church on Sunday and this is what the preacher said. And okay, and that's it. And then you kind of continue on with life. This walk causes you to have to be responsible for what you're learning and for what you're taking in, for what you're processing and what you're walking out. So
I think that's so great. That was really life-changing for me and for a lot of people that I have spoken to. And they're saying all of a sudden I felt it was very personal. I was and I felt like I was running to catch up with everyone. Like everyone's ahead of me. Everyone knows everything and I don't know anything. I'm running. And I just, over the years, I hope you've heard us tell you, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Now, I'm going to put on my mama hat, coach mama hat. If you've been lazy and you haven't been doing anything, then it's time to if this is the perfect time for you to say, okay, this is the time. I have to take responsibility for putting the oil in my lamp and trimming my wicks. No one's going to do that because everyone's going to have them done ready for, and I won't. If you've been lazy and you haven't been studying and you haven't been taking your study and your walk in this, you're getting better every year with the feasts and festivals and preparing for them. And how do I walk in this and asking questions? That's different. You can still catch up. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to catch up. He'll meet you and redeem the time. He knows your heart, but I'm just going to say you got to start. And I really feel really led, Rebecca, that this is so important right now, that he's calling all of us to grow up.
Yes. Yes.
And get in the word. I mean, all I just keep hearing is grow up and get your lamps ready. That's what I keep hearing. And I'm hearing it not just in my own heart, I'm hearing it from people all around.
And can I say, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but it was so impactful for me, because you're perhaps you're sitting here and you're hearing this and you're like, okay, I don't know which name. I want to make sure my wick is trimmed, but I don't know how to do this. And maybe I don't eat. And there's all these questions and there's all these things, and maybe you don't feel comfortable. It's a different, we have to remember that the word was written within a culture, there were practices there. You see that the Jewish culture today, they do certain practices on certain feasts, and you're like, well, I don't feel any of that. I don't, I'm not comfortable with all these questions and things. I had a conversation with somebody last week, and the conversation we were talking about stuff, and the conversation said, listen, if you tell me that at your congregation, your church, your whatever, you're going to have a night of testimonies, I'm not going. And I was like, what? Because usually people love those kind of, services and stuff. You get a lot more people than when they call for fasting and praying, And so I said, why? And she said, I am so uncomfortable when people are sharing. Sometimes people overshare. They say stuff that they shouldn't. They say things that are inappropriate. They don't watch their word. It makes me uncomfortable, and I have a physical reaction when I hear people I don't want to listen, I don't want to hear. It makes me uncomfortable. When that person said that to me, I said, wow, they took something that's supposed to be, we've been talking about here, like we have to revive the praise report. And so there are people that don't respond to that. We're so different. And when I heard that, I said, God, how do you deal with all of this? How do you kind of like hold on to all of us and gather us in and teach us and draw us? And the word talks about him drawing us to him, all these kind of things. How do you deal with that? I'm saying all this to say that wherever you are right now, have peace in your heart that God will guide you. And he knows the intricate parts of your being, and the stuff that you say, the stuff that you don't say, the stuff that makes you comfortable, the stuff that makes you uncomfortable.
Right.
All you have to have is a willing heart. And once you have that, God is able to take off and do. But you have to be diligent, and you have to be responsible with yourself and your relationship with God. You have to be an active participant. And sometimes you'll have moments like what I talked about last week, where you're like, God, I don't hear anything. I don't see anything. I really feel out of place, but I'm here. And if you're willing to speak, I'm willing to listen. That's enough. And God will speak and God will guide, So this time is like a wonderful, really wonderful opportunity for us to kind of like
reset,
get our ducks in a row and reset and kind of come to God.
Yeah. And it's not like it's not like New Year's Eve where we're like, okay, I'm going to go on a diet and then I'm going to get healthy and go to the gym every day. And this is different. His calendar, he's saying, this isn't just a time of getting to a place where it is a place of teshuvah or repentance. It is a place of all those things, but it's a place of he gives us a chance every year to start, not just start over, but to recalibrate. Because again, we talk about sin is missing the mark. The word katat is a archery term of missing the mark. This is the time to set your sights so that you can hit the mark.
Yes.
This is the time to reset. And one of the reasons that many of you know that we even started the Ruta Cafe was for this purpose. So you had a safe place to ask questions. You had vetted sources. It is so overwhelming to go, who do I listen to? What do I do? We vetted sources out to you that we can trust. We know that it's a safe place for you to go and ask instructors questions. You can go into the private chats and ask people questions. It's safe. And that is where that's one of the biggest reasons why we started the Ruta Cafe, was for that reason. This is a really good time for you to make the commitment. One of the things for me, it was overwhelming. Like, where do I start? What do I even do? Can you just start with doing the Torah portion every week?
Yeah.
I mean, if you just tell yourself this year, I am not going to miss a Torah portion. I'm going to go through each week and I'm going to read it. That's it. I'm just going to read it. Just this year, that's my baseline. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read the Torah portion. Maybe you need to read it out loud to yourself so you hear it also. And you have all week to do it. I mean, this was freeing to me, Rebecca, when I told myself, this is all I have to do. I'm like, what? Like, I don't have like 55 things I have to mark boxes off. No, you have the Torah portion to do every year. If you go to the rootedcafe.com, under at the top where it says the portion, at the very top, we have the brand new reading schedule up there. Click on it, print it, put it in your Bible. And literally, if that's what you do, baseline. Second thing I would say, I highly recommend, Gail is going, this is a fun addition, I think, to your library. If you're just getting started.
Yes.
Right. She has Genesis. And it's a good time to grab it. Go get it on Amazon. Super. I can't remember how much these are. They're like, I mean, $10, $12. I don't know. But through Ancient Eyes. And they're easy, they're quick. And if you just read this and you're just going to understand maybe the ancient Near East perspective, don't let that freak you out. She does it in such a great Fisher. I would not Fisher price, but close. I mean, it's really an easy. It's easy reading, and she's going to give you a perspective that you probably have never thought of before. Just a little snippet.
Yeah, it's like manageable. It's manageable, and it's kind of like,
maybe that's the next layer you add. You're like, okay, well, I
yes,
read it and I want to do one more thing, that I'm going to do one more thing. Please don't overdo it. Join the Rudu Cafe. I'm going to go through. Gail does also have the ancient Near East, but she has the Torah portions. You want to do that. Yeah. You're just going to just do that. And that's all you're going to do. Be done. Be free. Pray. You're done. Listen. Right? I mean, I feel like I just want to give you freedom to do that, but that's trimming your wicks. That's filling with oil. You're asking at this time of year, we're asking him, would you examine my heart? We're about to go into a brand new month. I don't know about you. I can feel my body is so in tune with the moon now. I feel it. My body's I've gotten an argument with my husband this morning and the Holy Spirit's like, don't say it. Don't stay in your office. Don't do it. Don't. And I'm like, oh, he needs to know. And no, he doesn't. You need to quit. And I'm like, he needs to know he hurt my feelings. And I'm going to just be fully transparent, you guys. This is how stupid it was. I have pre-moon syndrome, PMSing here. We were on the patio having breakfast. And I'm like, oh, do you want to listen to Bema podcasts with me? Yeah, that'd be great. I said, let's do this like every morning, especially since it's cool. It'll be nice. Let's start listening to every morning because they're like 20 minutes. We can have breakfast and listen to that. Oh, that'd be great. Then he notices that our new puppy went potty. Oh, I cleaned that up. And then when he walked in, she pottied right inside the door. So he cleaned that up. He's taking forever. I'm getting irritated because now I'm done with my breakfast. I've been sitting there waiting. I'm irritated and I get up. I'm like, fine. And I just pack everything up and I put everything in the dishwasher. And he's just like, okay, guess we're done. Going on about. And I'm like, he needs to know. He needs to know. I created a space and he didn't honor it. You guys, I'm so embarrassed. Yeah. So yes, I had to repent and I had to be sorry. And I had to explain why all of that hurt my feelings. It's still good. When am I going to learn? Never. It was crazy. So I just want you to know there's cycles. You're going to start learning cycles. Then you can add things like the new moons and you can understand how it is precept upon precept on thing he wants to teach you on error, and he will let you grow at the pace. Please don't get overwhelmed. Please don't let it out. And I want to say this time of year, as you're like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to, please, this is a time to just sit and listen. What is he asking you to do? What is he asking you? I can tell you baseline, he's going to say, would you just like read? What? You got it. Go.
It's so good that you're saying this because if this is your first time with us, then you'll be surprised maybe to know that we're going to start this right up again for the next year. It's going to be the same scripture portions. It's going to be the same words. It's going to be the same stuff. And what is so cool is in this particular portion this week, we find a part of it where Moses is talking about the fact that he's writing down the words for the people. And he says, and every 7 years, you're going to get to hear this, not read it. You're going to get to hear it. And that means that they were going to be able to only have access to this every 7 years, listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think about that, when you think about how spoiled we are now that we have all this technology, we have copy, we could get the Bible with any kind of lettering and cover and, you know, hard copy, soft copy, whatever, all this stuff. They only got to listen every 7 years. And when you think about the enormity of that concept, that every single person there got to hear it, that meant that every single person took away something that stood out to them. And that was what was going to stick with them for 7 years.
Yeah.
And then they had to share it with each other so that maybe you got more tidbits and more pieces the more you shared. And yeah, but did you hear what he said? I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, because we catch maybe
opportunity.
12%, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe retain 12%. And I mean, and think about it, then he's telling them, I want you to teach this coming and going to your children, coming and out. They were telling the stories. And when we talk about things like oral Torah and things, those are things that have been passed down. That was happening in between those 7 years was these oral things. They were telling the stories. Hey, this is what happened when we left Egypt. This is what happened when we didn't have water. This is what happened when we got to Jericho. This is what happened. I mean, they were just telling the stories over and over and over. And they weren't hearing it. It wasn't like oh, let's unroll the Torah. Let's all do this now. No, everyone didn't have a copy. Like you said, this is such a blessing. Like did you grow up in the Catholic? No, you didn't grow up in the Catholic Church. Anyone here who's Catholic, please say me. Because I know most of my friends who grew up Catholic, they didn't own a Bible. They didn't, for a long time, the Catholic Church didn't let people have copies of the Bible.
Yeah. They didn't even do the services in a language that they understood. They just kind of had to trust that they were saying what they said they were saying.
Yeah, it's good. We're hopping into this Torah portion, and it's short.
Very short, but it's really rich.
It's so rich. And I love that in the Tree of Life translation, it says chazak is how it starts off. Be courageous, because starting something new and leaving something behind requires courage.
100%. 100%.
I'm not going to say quitting. I'm going to say moving to the next thing he's called you to takes courage, because it requires you to let go and trust the next generation or the next thing to take over. And Rebecca, to be honest with you, I don't feel like we teach this well as mentors, as disciples. I don't think we teach how to leave well. I don't think we teach that well.
And I think sometimes it's not even, there's some aspects where people have a hard time letting go, so they don't want to teach in a selfish way. But sometimes I think it's also, we feel like we have to do everything and control everything so much that we feel like we don't have time to teach the ones that are coming up. So we don't do a good job in that sense either.
That's really
so
good.
It's like, it's something that I think that, we need to get better at.
But Yeshua had the time, and he had the greatest ministry of all, and he taught 12, who then said, go into all the world. Right. And he's really been pushing that on me is, are we doing that? Are we duplicating ourselves? Like, think about it. Who's the last person you sat with and shared who God is to you, your testimony of who he is and what he's done in your life, and someone who maybe doesn't know him? When is the last time we've done that? Because I think we get really caught up in our congregations and all the things we're doing and all the things we're learning, and we forget there is a commission. There is a commission, and part of that means going out and it might mean that you have to leave what you're doing. And I think that we're seeing Moshe here do a beautiful job. If we look at how did he do it, he calls Joshua forward, right? And in front of everyone, and he's going through and he's summarizing here. I'm thinking about the process. Many of you guys know I have stepped down as directing the Ruta Cafe. I'm just going to be working with the board and overseeing. And Robin Bales, who I'm super excited, who's coming in. Many of you know her. She teaches the third Thursday night here in the portion. But there's a season right now where I am summarizing everything. I'm putting everything onto for a project management board. Here's the list. Here's how we do things. This is when this happens, this is what we do. So I'm summarizing, and we see Moses summarizing. Here's where we've been. This is where we're going. And don't forget, when you get there, this is going to happen. So that's what, stepping into this, I think this is a really good leadership manual, chapter 31 here.
Yeah.
And we can go back and think of the Levitical priesthood. They didn't start until they were 30 and they quit when they were 50. So you probably had 50 plus year olds who were mentoring those who were doing it, or they're training the ones coming up to come into it. There was a cycle of when things happen. There's a cycle of life, and think about it in your families. Are you trying to control everything? Are you letting your replace? Are you building your placement? I shared this on Wednesday when I'm teaching or when I'm doing a leadership workshop and in congregations or with, I always ask the first question, everyone grab a piece of paper and write down the name of the person who's going to be taking your job. Who's replacing you? And usually there's very few who they just sit there like, oh, no one could do what I do. It would take 3 to 5 people.
Mhm.
I'm going to just say guilty. And what happens is when you get out of the way, you watch the testimony. We won't do it today, but the testimony, the Lord just telling me like, what are you afraid of? And get out of the way. Right. Getting out of the way and then watching Robin come in I can't wait to see what she does with the Ruta Cafe. I can't wait to see the new things as she takes over the land. I can't wait for that. What do you got? And is there anything else in here that just stood out for you? It's a short chapter that we can jump around and it's not a big deal.
Yeah, no, it kind of jumping on and piggybacking on what you were saying when you're talking about the Levitical priests and with Moses here as he gets ready. He's an interesting case, right? Just in and of itself, he's interesting and he's different, and God deals with him differently than what he's going to do down the line with Israel as a whole. But when it starts, he says he goes and he says, "Listen, I'm 120 today."
Yeah.
And I'm no longer able to go out and come in. In other words, I'm done. I have reached where I was supposed to go. And now it's time to pass on that baton, which you're talking about. And what really struck me is, we'll see it kind of like in this passage, is the thing that you were mentioning about the Levitical priests, that they worked from 30 to 50. Think about it today with the mindset that our society has now with working. It's pretty much work until you die, unless you have enough money to live off of, but you pretty much have to keep working. 30 to 50, that's like the prime of your life. That's like you're old enough to kind of get all the silliness out and kind of all the insecurity, and you're kind of more stable. And you get to a place where you're at the prime to serve, but then you're at the prime to mentor and to teach and to pass on. And it brings me back to last week's portion, the piece where it talks about God saying, this word is not too high where you can't get it. It's not too far. It's not across the sea. It's not impossible to do. What he asks us to do is very, very manageable. Yeah. And for me, that is really important. I had a conversation with Charlie actually yesterday. And in part of it, I was talking about a previous work experience that I had that was pretty bad. And I ended up having to work 4 positions for one person. There was a lot of changeover and a lot of things going on. And I ended up and it got to the point where I had a nervous breakdown and I had to leave. And it wasn't a viable kind of position for me to be in. I just couldn't do it, and I kind of burnt out. And when I think about that has been a really big thing for me in the years since, learning to place boundaries. I didn't know how to do that. I was very bad at that. Learning to place boundaries and learning to say, no, I can't. And and when you look at God's model of what he does, he's very fair and it's very manageable. When you think about the feasts, when you think about Shabbat, sure, he makes a whole day for us to rest so that we can't say that we burnt out. He provides space for that, so everything that he says, you're going to hear this once every 7 years. In other words, you're getting like tidbits. It's manageable stuff that you have 7 years to chew on that and to understand it and to get it. And then you get to start all over again with something else. He's very manageable. And at the same time, he tells us, be strong and be courageous. And, it's like the ultimate cheerleader, he literally lays out everything on a silver platter for us to be able to do stuff. And at the same time, in this same passage, you're going to hear him say, but you know what? As soon as I turn my back, I know you're going to mess up. And that is really hard to read.
That was hard to read. And I'm wondering, it's so fun. I'm wondering, I was thinking about this, that you brought that up, that did he tell Moshe that like that to say like, hey, dude, you're just going to be glad you are not with them, because this is what's going to happen. And you'll be glad you don't have to see that, because it would be the last straw for you.
Yeah. Imagine working that hard, that long with those people and dealing with all that stuff, for them to just be like, whatever, and just kind of going and doing, something else. And you're
Do
like,
everything you told them not to do. Okay. So maybe that's happened with a child of yours. And I want to just another praise report in that, there has been years my daughter was kind of in a little prodigal moment, and what is really exciting over the last few weeks, I'm watching the Father answer prayers and watching her come back to it's just amazing to watch her come back to him. And jokingly, she said, Mom, I think I need to try that God thing again. And it was just fun. It was fun. And it's fun to watch what he's doing. And it wasn't because I was pounding verses over her head. You know what I kept praying, Rebecca? Father, would you make her calling and her election sure? Father, I thank you that you said you would make our calling and election sure. I'm going to pray Ephesians 1 all over her. Thank you, Father, that I know you're faithful to complete what you've started. And I trust you. I was listening to Bema this morning, and he was talking about, we have to trust when it talks about forgiveness and how easy, Bema was talking about the Sermon on the Mount, and he was just talking about forgiveness. And do we really trust God? And what we're saying when we're holding on to a grievance, or when we're irritated, is we're saying, I can't let that go because I don't trust you to take care of it the right way. I don't trust you to give them what they deserve. I don't trust you. I don't trust, you're supposed to be a good father. You're saying you're a good father. Your word says that you're a good father. You said you're going to do all these things. We're supposed to be courageous. Don't worry. He says, I'm going to go before you, and I'm going to annihilate the enemy for you. And then it says, you're going to come in. I mean, this is right in chapter 7. You're going to come in, and then I'm going to give it to you. And then you're going to enable them to inherit it. And he's saying, I'm going to blow everything out, and then you're going to come in and you can inherit it. Doesn't that happen in our lives? Rebecca, he's come in my life when I've said, if it's not you, I don't want it.
yes.
In my family, I've watched my family look like it's falling apart. He came in and annihilated the enemy, but I didn't, in the middle of it, didn't see that. And I didn't trust his process. I didn't trust that he knew what he was doing. So instead of saying, Father, I thank you because I trust what you're doing, show me how to align with your plan. Most of the time I was throwing a fit, or like this morning, I'm going to go tell someone because they need to know. And he showed me that in this chapter this week is that he said, I lay things, but when I annihilate the enemy, it's going to look bad. It'll look like devastation. And then you're to come in and inherit it and build it up. The way it's supposed to be.
I love that. And I love the fact that he says, he will not fail you or abandon you.
Over and over.
Yeah. And it's this kind of promise, that, I can relate to what you're saying about your daughter with my son. He's going to be 22 this year. And right around that age, they just feel like they have it all together. They know everything, you know nothing. They are,
Yeah.
and in learning to navigate that with grace and try to survive that is hard. But one of the things that I remember God told us a long time ago was, don't listen to what he says. He's mine. I have a plan for him. He's mine. And so whenever something has come up or whatever, I remember that word, and that word has been such a reassurance that, like, I put him in his hands. He knows. And part of my prayer for him has been, Father, if it's not through me, because he doesn't want to listen to me at this time about whatever, place people in his path that are going to draw him back to you. Like, make the place narrow so that he has no choice.
Sister, my daughter's sending me TikToks. If it means the people he puts around them are TikTok people, okay.
Yeah.
Because she's sending me TikTok. Mom, did you know that the word for Genesis in Hebrew is actually the whole story of salvation? Did you know that, Mom? I'm like, this is awesome. Do I want to say, yeah? And I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Tell me more. What else does it say? I mean, and then, okay, so that's funny that you should say that, because if you look down in verse 14, he's talking about, Adonai says to Moses, behold, your time is to die is near. Call Joshua and present yourself at the tent of meeting. So call Joshua, and I want you to present him. Come to the tent of meeting, and I will commission him. Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves at the tent of meeting. Okay. Moses's job was just to bring him to the tent. Go get him and bring him here. His job wasn't to commission him.
Mm-hmm.
His
Mm-hmm.
job wasn't to everybody you bring him here. If you get him here, I'll do the rest. And that's why I believe we can say me and my house will be saved.
Yes.
Because you know what I know? I know that I brought my daughter to the Father. I know that I brought her to the tent. I know I brought her there, and he will commission her to do what's
Amen.
next.
Amen.
He
Amen.
will commission her to do what's next. And it's fun to hear my daughter say things like, Mom, I really feel like God has a call in my life and I've been running from it. And here's why. And sharing those stories with me. And I'm just like, I'm trying not to scream on the phone and run around and put the phone down and jump up and down. And just like, whoosha, right? Like, okay. And it is so exciting because, like you said, my daughter went through phases where she said that she's going to become Buddhist. And I remember not responding, him saying, don't respond. I went, well, honey, you know what I trust? I trust that God is so powerful in you. He'll speak through whatever avenue you choose to go through. God is so big in you that he will talk to you wherever you choose to go find him. And she was like it took away the cell, right? I didn't fight her. I didn't fight her on all that. I just kept walking it out. I kept loving her. I kept saying, oh, I can't wait to see what the plan is. I wasn't weird and leaving a bunch of notes under and sending her things and hope she reads it. I just kept thanking God for he is faithful to finish what he starts. And he began a good work in her. So I know he's faithful. I also know me and my house will be saved.
Yes.
Period. Now, do I say it, but I don't really believe it? I have to believe and trust that he knows what he's doing. And if I do, then my prayers will start with, thank you, God. And I'm just going to tell you, it will renew your mind if you start praying that way.
I was going to say rejuvenate, definitely, like kind of bring it back to life. Yeah,
It will
absolutely.
absolutely do that because you're like, thank you, God, that, and then just start praying, thank you, God, that you're taking all of our hearts of stone, like, because you already heard that story. You're turning all of our hearts from stone to flesh, and you're causing all of us to walk in your commandments. Thank you that you're doing that to all of us. I thank you, my whole family. You're sending people to minister. Thank you that you're the one who commissions and I don't have to do the work. I just have to bring them to you. And how do I do that? By walking it out in front of them and not being weird and judgy. This is a hard walk, moms.
And and something that I think that we cannot pass over is verse 3, and it ties in with this because in verse 3 it says, Adonai your God, he will cross over before you. He's the one that starts it. He's the one that's doing. And then when when he tells him bring Joshua, he's the one that commissions. We just have to do our small part, but he's the one that starts it and he's the one that finishes it. He is the one that holds us in his hand.
Yes. And if you go look at him, he says he will destroy it. So we don't have to do that. We don't have to do the destruction, but we go in. That's why a wise woman builds her house, but a foolish woman tears it down. It's not our job to destroy things and tear them down. And we do it with this pay hole right here. We do it, for those of you who are new, pay in the Hebrew alphabet means the mouth, not pie. I said pay. And he says, you destroy it. And then what's your job? Then you're going to go dispossess them. You're going to go look that up, do the study on that. And then later he says again, I'm going to go before you. I'm going to be strong, be courageous, because I'm going to go in. I'm going to give you this land and it's your inheritance to go in. And sometimes, Rebecca, your inheritance doesn't look pretty.
No.
Sometimes you're a house flipper. Yeah. Sometimes the house you buy, you inherit the house. It does not look what was like you thought it was going to.
No.
But it was your inheritance. Now it's your job. He will enable you to go in, give you, and you will flip that house and it'll be beautiful and worth so much.
Yeah, no, that's so true. It's so true. It's like when you read this, you start to realize, man, what he's saying is really doable. What he's saying for me to do is doable. And the part that is so hard for us, though, is to understand that the doable is laying down our flesh and trusting him. That's the hard part for us. Where he's not asking us to scale mountains. He's not asking us to go, against an army of 50 billion and with one person. He's not asking any of that. All he's asking is for us to trust him. How difficult is it for us to do that? And he understands that about us, which is I mean, his love is just infinite. His love and his patience are beyond.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, right? I want to speak to who here. Raise your hand, say it's me. It's helpful if you say it's me, wherever you're listening from, if you're watching live, if you're watching later, wherever you can type right now. I want you to say, answer, it's me. Who here's discouraged? Who feels like the word is an inheritance and you understand there's certain inheritances that you have? You know, it says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every word that rises against you shall fail. This is your inheritance, but you're like, yeah, there's a lot of weapons that have formed against me. And I know some tongues that have prospered. And my kids are a hot mess. I've got some prodigals, a prodigal. This is going wrong. Who can just put yes? Who feels discouraged? Because I believe that's who he's talking to you. He's saying it's not just fear, like yes, it's the quaking, it's the anxiety, it's the root. When we try to jump in and control things, when we're doing it, it's rooted in fear. When you're in weak, what causes us overwhelm, frustration, fear is the root of our panic and our anxiety attacks. They're very real. It's a real thing. Depression, it takes us down into those places. It's rooted in a fear. It's real. To us, I remember it was saying it's false evidence appearing real. That's what fear stands for. But you know what? It still feels real. Whether it's our reality or our perception, it feels real. And I'm not going to minimize it today. These things are happening. I feel like there's a reason. We only know how many times Yeshua, or how many times in the New Testament it's telling us, fear not, fear not, fear not, fear not. But he's saying, I'm going to be with you. I'm not going to fail you. I'm not going to abandon you. And you know what? This hit me because, Rebecca, there are days I have felt abandoned. I would say there's a big part of my life I felt abandoned when I didn't feel worth the fight, that nobody was going before me and nobody was doing those things. And I know he has to know that we are going to struggle with this. That's why he's saying it so much. I'm not going to abandon you. It's a lie. So how do we, literally have Tourette's, because I'm in my, not to make fun of this if that's something you struggle with, but if you were in my house, you would hear me often going, stop, because I have to verbally tell myself, quit it. Because I will, hold on a second. I have to tell my husband to please close his door. I literally can hear these things happening and I start stressing out and I have to yell at myself to stop it. And I do it enough that I actually break the cycle.
So here's the thing. I heard something this week that really, you hear something that just clicks. One of the things with this passage is he says it 3 times, right? Be strong and courageous. He's kind of like, he's trying to cement this idea of, yes, you're going to feel alone. Yes, you're going to feel abandoned. Yes, you're going to be afraid. Yes. They're all valid. It's when you're not making something up. It's not a phantom thing. You're going to have these feelings. You're going to face these things that are going to be difficult, but I'm telling you to be strong and be courageous. And one of the things that I heard this week that I found so interesting was in the passage in Matthew, if I'm not mistaken, in Matthew, where it says, where Peter walks on the water, right? And it says that God, that Yeshua comes and he says, Peter says, if it's you, call me to walk. And he says, okay. He's like, come on. And he starts walking. And then all of a sudden he looks and he sees and he starts to falter and he goes down and he says, help, and Yeshua comes and he gives him his hand and he brings him back to the thing. The translation that we have, it says, Yeshua, it says, Peter, you have little faith. Like, why did you doubt? And that what I learned was that the word little there in English and in Spanish, it talks about the idea of little is this idea of quantity. You have a little bit of food, a little bit of light, a little bit, okay. It's all about quantity. But in the language, in the Greek, when it uses that word for little, it's talking about time. It's not about quantity, it's about time. So what Yeshua is really saying to him, it's not about little faith, because then we have the parable where it talks about if you have faith like a mustard seed, which is a little, and it turns into this big thing. It's not about quantity, it's about perseverance. It's about, why did you not hold on to your faith long enough to believe that I could do what I said what I was going to do? And for me, that was like, because oftentimes, especially when you're in like your first love and you're discovering Torah and you kind of want to dive in, you have the faith and you have this zeal, you have this excitement, and then all of a sudden you start facing all these things that, you know, that we have an example here that Moses is saying, look, you're going to face this and this and this, but God is saying, I'm going to go before you and I'm going to make the path straight. I'm going to do this. You just have to be, you know, you just have to be courageous and just hold on and just do. And that's usually where we have a problem, is that we falter. We don't persevere in our faith. We don't hold on to that word and that promise that God has given. And that's where we struggle. And so for me, I was like, oh, that was such a paradigm shift, because when that happens, we say, oh, I don't have enough faith. I'm not good enough. I don't have enough faith. I just don't have what it takes to be able to, you know, receive God's promises. But it's not about that. It's about learning to be consistent and learning to persevere, learning to be diligent. Those are the things that we have to. So when God says it here, when Moses says it here in this passage, you know, hazak, 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 it's 3 times he said it's about persistence. It's about persevering, you know, which for me, that was huge, because it doesn't mean that you don't have it. It just means you have to hold on to it. That's all.
Hold on to it. That's so good. And that really makes sense to me, because if you look at this chapter, you're going to hear, if you're looking at it from an ancient Near East perspective, you're going to hear that this is a lot of contractual speak that's happening in here. You're going to see, if you go to a different level of this, and you're looking at from you're looking at that suzerain and vassal conversation. So you have the stronger party and the weaker party. You have the king and the peasants. And that's important, that you have this understanding that when there's a reason that you have your stronger party here saying, don't be afraid, I've got you. Imagine a king. I mean, I like to watch, like maybe I'm watching something, there's a king and there's peasants, and like, you know, whatever century, 15th century or 16th. The dynamics of it are very intriguing to me, because we don't live in that. But even, let's just go, I mean, this is going to be hard to imagine for most of us, but imagine our president saying, you guys don't worry, I've got you. But there have been times when we have had presidents that said that and we believed them.
Mm-hmm.
When they said, don't worry, because if this happens, we will take care of business. Don't worry. This is going to happen. I'm going to take there was probably a moment in your life you were naive enough, because you had it, meaning that you didn't have enough life experience to realize, there's a bigger thing. He's not really the end all. Other people are involved. But that's different with a king. With a king, when the king said, I'm going to protect you, I'm going to make sure this is going to happen, I don't want you to worry. You're just going to have to take care of these things that I give you. And if you focus on these things, everything is going to be okay, because I will protect you. I will destroy the enemies, and you'll just get to take the inheritance, because our kingdom is going to expand. And as our kingdom expands, I will give lands to you so that you can work those lands, and you'll have more opportunities, and you will inherit more things. And those that go out and help me as I go out and destroy things, this is good. There's going to be an expansion, but don't be afraid, because I'm the one. I personally will get on the horse, kill everybody, and then all you guys have to do is come in and take over the inheritance. And they would have believed him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when he's saying it to them, this is their understanding. This would have been their mentality. Can I say that's what he's saying to us right now?
Yes. Yes.
Do you believe it? Do you believe it? Even no matter what you see, do you believe it? Because sometimes when he's destroying the enemy and he's destroying things, you hear the word destroying. When things are getting wiped away, it doesn't look good sometimes. And he's asking you to trust him, not be afraid, not to be anxious. He's saying, and I love that he says, don't get discouraged. And I learned, I really had a friend just sharing with me her understanding, and she was sharing the Hebrew perspective of the word hope. Because hope, we know the word, think of the parable, hope deferred makes the heart grow like faint, right? We get discouraged. When hope is deferred, we get discouraged. And I'm sure how many of you right now could say me, hope has been deferred. Hope is deferred. A Hebrew's perspective of the word hope. I want you to see the picture of it. Hope isn't like, oh, I hope this happens. I hope this happens. Maybe and may not. Hope in the Hebrew perspective is you plant a seed, you cover it up, and you know eventually that seed is going to bring forth fruit in due season. That is the word picture. That is your hieroglyphic of hope. And what you do is you pray for rain. You pray for rain so that it gets what it needs. You're praying and covering it and protecting the seed. That's how we connect with heaven and operate in that hope. Hope isn't, I hope it doesn't die. Hope, you are protecting the seed from the birds coming to get it. You are coming and protecting. You know that you know. So I'm going to just say your family, your children, your spouse, whoever you're praying for. If you just start thanking him and say, Father, how do I water this? How do I water what you're doing? How do I bring water to this situation? Because I know the seed is there. The seed's been planted. It's just deferred. And I don't want to be discouraged. Your word says not to be discouraged. You're going to fight off the enemies. Do you remember he put Abraham to sleep? That's part of the covenant. He put him to sleep. At first, all he had to do is fight the birds off. And then he's like, put him to sleep. And he did all the work. That's the stronger party. I'm going to go through and do all the work. He went to the cross. He did all the work. And he's asking us, can we co-labor with me? And what that means is, can you ask, do we need to water? We need to pray. Is that we're watering it with prayer? Are we watering it with a beautiful attitude, with love and kindness? Is that how I'm co-laboring with you today? How do I co-labor in this? Because when we're walking around discouraged and we're walking around freaked out and overwhelmed, what we're saying is, I'm sorry, we're saying, I don't trust that you know what you're doing. I don't trust your timing. I don't trust the plan, and I don't trust your word. And I'm just standing right next to you saying, that's me. And that's what I get to work on in this next year. That's what I get to work on during Yom Kippur, where I get to spend time and say, show me the areas that I'm saying, I don't trust you. I don't trust that you know what I think you know what you're doing, but I don't trust you care. I don't trust that you care about my enemies and the inheritance you said you're going to give me. I don't trust that you will fight. Hey, guess what? This inheritance, they gave it up and they were in bondage and they had to come back and repossess, right? So maybe there's some stuff you've given up. Maybe there's some stuff generationally people have given up and you're walking in a mess that you didn't even create. Or maybe you did. And he's saying, I don't care. I'm going to fight the battle for you. I'm going to go before you and fight it because you still are worth your inheritance. You just got to trust me.
One of the really beautiful things that ties in with what you're saying right now is found in verse 12 that I just really want to reiterate. And it's talking about that all of this stuff that God is promising. And it says, gather the people, having community and having those people that can help you to water that seed, help you protect that seed, help you to walk this out is so vital because it can be the difference between you making it and you not. You know, God created us to be in community and he calls us to kind of walk together. And so like, this includes our families, but it also includes our community, like the people around us, the others that are, it says, you know, the outsider within your town gates, like whoever will listen and whoever wants to follow, join the pack, because we need the strength that we get from each other. We need that tight bond that helps us to kind of walk this along so that when one starts to falter, everybody else kind of pulls them up and says, nope, we got to keep on walking. We got to keep, God said this, we're going to go for it. And so that's really, really important, because there are moments where we feel alone. There are moments where we feel abandoned. All of those things that Charlie mentioned are very real. Sometimes they're very valid. They're experiences that we go through. And sometimes you're like, why me? What did I do? Remember when the guy that was it he was deaf, mute, or blind? And they asked Yeshua, and they said, who sinned? His mother, his father? And he said, neither. It's for God's glory to be shown at this moment. Sometimes we find ourselves in situations not of our own making. It's neither. You didn't do anything, it has nothing to, it's just what you're called to walk through. That's part of life. And the thing that we have to remember always is that we have such a myopic point of view, and God sees everything. And God is able to see what he has for you ahead that you have no clue and no idea. And he knows what he's going to fill in your life, the things that are missing, the things that need to be put back together. And sometimes they're put back together and they're cracks and all this kind of stuff. And I think that the beauty is when we're able to see it the way you see that Japanese art where they put the gold filling in between all the cracks. And you can see those are the touches of God when he brought things back together and he redeemed and he restored. Those are two words that I have really in the front of my head right now that I'm kind of dealing with is redemption and restoration. Because oftentimes when you look like, for example, if you're like watching HGTV and you're watching a show and they're restoring a house, oftentimes you have to rip out a lot of ugly before you can get to that restoration. And we gloss over that, we gloss over that. That's part of the process. But when we have community, we can come together and we can walk it out, we can see the glory of God.
And that's it right there. It said, so you can, why do you need to do all this? So that they will hear and learn, right? Shema, they will hear, they will learn, and they will fear Adonai your God. And that word fear, when it comes up, and that word is yara or yare, yare. And it's not just, oh my God, I'm afraid of you. It's that trembling. It's that adoration. What I keep seeing in this context, because it's different contexts. Again, it's Hebrew, so it could mean multiple things, but it's not about being afraid, scared. It's about trusting. I'm trembling, but I am so reverent that I wouldn't doubt you.
It's a
it's a recognition. Like
reckoning, that, oh my gosh, the Holy One is before me. It's real. What he said is real. What he said he was going to do, he did. It's knowing that I can be safe in his hands.
So good. I was listening to something this morning, that my little prayer app, and they were reading this story when Yeshua it says he went and he was crying out and he was praying. And I'm like, wow, even God himself, however you again want to walk that out, a part of God, the Son of God, a version of God, all Yeshua, he himself, God become man, he himself is crying out to the Father, crying out to him and praying. Even he was struggling with things. And in the same verse, it says, and through his struggle, he learned obedience. Stop. Like, when did that get in there? Because I'm like, why is this always a struggle? And why did they have to struggle? What is all this? And it's through the struggle you learn obedience.
Yes.
Even Jesus himself learned obedience.
Verse 20. I lost my screen here. So if you see me looking to the sides, because I'm looking at the side, but I'm here. Verse 20. For when I bring them to the land flowing with milk and honey that I swore to their fathers, and they eat and are satisfied and grow fat, then they will turn to other gods and serve them, and they will spurn me and break my covenant. What is it that you just said?
The struggle brings obedience.
We need the struggle. We need the time in the desert. This is their time that's ending in the desert and they're going to go in. We need that. Because if not, we become complacent. If God were to give us what we asked for and there was no struggle and there was no appreciation for the process, our minds turn very quickly. And that's what the scripture is telling us. He starts out by saying, I'm laying it all out to you. I'm telling you, I'm going to go before you and I'm going to give it to you. What I have promised, it's coming. But you need to be vigilant and you need to be in the word. You need to stay focused on me, because if not, you are going to eat and you're going to be satisfied and you're going to go fat and then you're going to turn.
I feel revelations. I feel some things in here saying, oh, wait, in the last days, people will grow fat.
Yeah.
This is not about being on a diet for New Year's.
No.
This is about us taking this to the Father. Have I grown complacent?
Complacency. Yes.
Have I gotten complacent to where I'm just learning, and I'm not making disciples. I'm not stepping into what he's called me to do. What is the thing? It's not about shaming yourselves, but okay, I've gotten fat.
Yeah.
I've gotten fat. I've just really gotten fat, and I want to be accountable to all of you, because I know for me, he's really pushing me in this area, and pushing and stepping away from just I know Rebecca and I talk about this next year. Like, we've been teaching this for a really long time. We're going to let some other ladies come in next year and jump in and share all the fun stuff. Because it's time for us to do the next thing he's called us to do. And we can't get fat sitting here like, oh, this is easy for us. We've done this so often now. We could just be like, oh, what, you need me to teach? I'm ready, in and out of season. What verse, what chapter? Let me just do this. I got you. You have to shake it up, because you get fat and you get complacent.
Yep.
I have been praying. I want to go in. I want to get uncomfortable again. I want to be uncomfortable, and send me to places that make me uncomfortable, that all I have is you. Because I'm like, if you don't show up, this ain't going to be okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I pray that you guys are feeling encouraged when you're reading this. Hazak, be courageous. Be courageous.
Yes.
Yeah, be courageous. Yeah. Any final New Year's words for the ladies this year?
Just to be encouraged and to thoroughly enjoy the place where you are right now, in spite of. One of the big things that has been in my head these past couple of days is, even if he is still good, even if it doesn't look like I want it to look right now, even if it's not happening the way I think it should happen, even if I'm not seeing, I'm still here. I still believe you. I still choose to walk. I still choose to trust. And I want to enjoy the season that I'm in. It's so hard, right? When we're struggling. Girl, I've had a season of struggle.
Struggle bus. You drive the struggle bus.
and
Literally.
it's like, literally, and I just, and I find it so encouraging when we get to take the time out to sit here and to talk about the word, and to hear testimonies, and to kind of encourage each other, and to just walk this out. Because wouldn't it be wonderful if we were able to enjoy the season that we're in, the struggle, enjoy the struggle. I know that sounds crazy, but if you're able to, enjoying it means seeing God's hand. It's having peace that passes understanding. It's like, everything is not perfect, but that peace that passes understanding, it just lets me know that God has me in this hot mess, in this, in the stuff that I don't understand. He has me, and being able to enjoy that comfort of knowing that he's there, and that he's willing to be patient with me, because Lord knows he needs it with me. And he's willing to walk with me as I walk it out and learn and kind of get my stuff together, So
good.
I just encourage you. They only got a little snippet of the word, what they were able to retain every 7 years. We have so much more. That should give you peace, and that should give you an understanding to be gracious with yourself as you walk this out, because we're going to keep doing it until he comes back. We're just going to keep doing it and keep doing it. So
such a good word. Thank you for that. You guys be blessed. We just pray that you have a beautiful, beautiful Rosh Hashanah, beautiful New Year.
Yes.
Blow the trumpets. Maybe it's this year, right? Next year in Jerusalem. Who knows? Next year in front of our King. Would that be amazing? Watching him come in the clouds. That would be amazing. So we're blessed. I pray all of you have an amazing time with your families. If you're looking for community outside the gates, you don't have something inside your gates, please go check us out at the Rooted Cafe. Please that's how we all know each other, is from that. That's the place where we built community. That's the place where yes, there's discipleship, but community is our focus. And I would encourage you to go take a minute, go over there, jump in the community, get in all the things, and let us love on you, and let us help you through this next year. We can help keep you accountable, help give you tools that you might need, and you don't have to, save you time so you don't have to go find them. And don't forget to go grab the new reading schedule. therudacafe.com, and then the tab is the portion. Download it free, download it, print it. Love you guys. And those of you in the Zoom, stay tuned, hang out with us for the after party.
Please.